that's available. So you can download that app. There's no charge. Once you've done so, you would put in your zip code, and then it would give you a listing of libraries in the area. You would select yours, and at that point in time, it would ask you to put in your library card number, and you would have access. And the two modules that are currently available in the app are the U.S. Business module and the U.S. Consumer Lifestyles module. We also have, if you scroll far enough, our personal accounts. So if you would want to register for a personal account, and then when you log in through there, you can save your searches. So if you were maybe pulling up a list of certain types of businesses that you intended on reaching out to, you could certainly save that search and come back to it at any point in time. There's no limit to the number of searches. It's not a shortcut. Sometimes people think that they can go directly to Reference Solutions and then be able to log in that way. You still need to log in through the library's homepage, and I did bring that up just in case folks may not know where we're at. Obviously, front and center right here with our training that's going on, there is a link here. Although these logos will be changing, you can also find us under databases. So certainly a few different ways to get to us. So know that that is available, and the nice thing about that is it's 24/7, right? Doesn't matter if you're an early riser or if you prefer staying up late to do some work. So in regards to our database modules, there's different update schedules for these. Our US Business module currently, any new data that we get about businesses gets pushed live every Thursday into Friday morning. So back here in Omaha, we have a call center of about 270 folks, and that's what they do, are make these phone calls to businesses annually to find out name of business. We try and capture that owner or manager, how many employees they have, and about 72% of the businesses will give us an actual number of employees. So any information that we've updated during the week gets pushed live that Thursday into Friday morning. So once a week there, although I will give you a sneak peek in the future, and when I say the future, first quarter of 2021, this information will be being updated daily. So as we get an update in about a business, we'll push that out immediately. That could really alter what you're seeing in your personal accounts, because if we have some businesses that have been added since you were last in there, you'll get now the most recent listing of those businesses that are available based on the criteria you use to create your search. So no, right now it's weekly, but soon it will be daily. The historical module, this is updated technically at the beginning of every new year. So we take a look at last year and we push all that information out there and make it historical then in 2021 for 2020. Our jobs and internships, this information is being updated nightly. So we're getting this from Indeed.com, and when they send us that feed at night, we look to match that job opening or that internship with the company that's doing the hiring. So you can't get that combination by going directly to Indeed, but you can obviously through us. The new business filings, we're getting this information through Secretary of State office feeds, and we're updating this information weekly. It's not nearly as robust because it's about new businesses, right? We have not yet verified them. It's just from that Secretary of State's listing. So it's kind of a holding place for us to be able to then get that updated and give them a full record in the U.S. Business database. So this is being done weekly. The standard white pages and the consumer lifestyles, that information is being updated monthly. And the trigger for most of these, except for the jobs and internships and the new business, and technically, I guess the historical, would be the fact that when the phone books come out, that's when we're pushing through some of those updates. So we still get phone books nowadays sent to us digitally. And then we begin making those phone calls for those businesses. So let me go ahead and launch the US Business Database. And the beautiful thing about this is no matter which of these modules I might go into, they all search the same way. It's just different criteria that you might be using. So you could certainly look up a single company on our quick search page. You could look up a single company. You could look for an executive. Maybe there was an executive that someone used to have a relationship with at another company and they've gotten off somewhere and you're not certain where. You could try and find that executive that way. You can also look at all businesses across any given city or state and even do a reverse phone number lookup. I do want to show you one tool, and I'll just use my community for example here. So I'll go into Omaha, and then of course I've got to select my state. And then I'm just going to simply view my results. So I'm going to look at all verified businesses across my community. By the way, we also have unverified and closed businesses. Our verified businesses are 15.5 million at this point in time, but we know that's going to change with the effect of this darn pandemic. So at current time, I have some 29,240 results of verified businesses across my community. The tool I wanted to show you is this charts tool. This is a great tool that you can use in many different applications. What this will do is it will break down based on the SIC code. And if you're not familiar with what that is, that's the Standard Industrial Classification Code. So it breaks down the top 7 types of businesses across my community. The first one, as it often is in many communities, are physicians and surgeons, simply because they are, in fact, all 1099 guys and gals, so they are their own business. That's why there are so many. Here in Omaha, we have a number of hospitals, clinics, research institutions, a VA location, etc. So that's why our number is so high. Followed by restaurants in this case, attorneys, nurse practitioners, dentists, insurance, and then automated tellers. So we do capture and have in our records automated tellers, kiosks, you know, those gas propane kiosks that you see out in front of gas stations. We have those listed. We also have red boxes. So if you see any of those are going to be in the records as well. And I can always choose to omit things like this if I would want to. If I wanted a cleaner list, I can omit that, and I'll show you where you can do that. When I scroll down, it gives me a complete listing by SIC code, by their description, and the total number of records for each. Notice I have 112 pages of this information. So if I wanted to, for example, get to all of these beauty salons, I can simply click on that number and it will hyperlink to that group of those 262 beauty salons. So know that you can do a lot of different types of searching within the database, and I can always get back to where I began. In fact, most people are spending a lot of their time in the advanced search, and by the way, additional filters goes to the same place. So I'll launch that, and you'll see we give you a lot of criteria here that you could choose to use to get some specific records that meet your interest. So we see a lot of people use this for sales leads, for market research. Maybe they want to find out about their competition. Where's the closest competition at to them, etc. They can certainly use it in that fashion as well. The difference between what we saw under quick search for company name and what we have here is you can certainly create your own list by company name of those businesses that you want to see and forego the industry that they're in. So you could certainly do that. Otherwise, we will always give you company name. We will always give you this executive information as well. But maybe for your needs, you need to speak to an owner that's present. So you could certainly drive in just those records that we have with an owner present and then forego all those others that maybe wouldn't have an owner. Or if you wanted an owner, or you would accept perhaps a manager, you could certainly do both that way. So for sure, you're going to get either an owner or a manager, in some cases, maybe both. So know that that is always available to you. Business type. So a lot of times people simply do a keyword search in order to pull up or start to look at the industry that they're most interested in. You can also use our major industry group. You wouldn't use both. The major industry group is in fact the SIC codes by their first two numbers, and then it breaks it down. So when Uncle Sam deployed these, they were only 4-digit numbers. They've since technically been retired, but we keep them alive along with the ability to give you the NAICS codes instead. So with that, it gives you the description for each of those 2-digit codes, and then when you select it again, it will give you the 4-digit. This was as far as Uncle Sam went. We have actually added at minimum 2 additional numbers to it, so you could get that much more specific. And you will see in certain types of situations like restaurants, for example, we have them with an 8 and an alpha. So you can get very granular on restaurants. So know that you could use this as a way to get to that kind of information you'd like. We'll always give you these geography options. The one mistake I see people make a lot is they go, okay, I want both the city and state and the county. Well, you choose one or the other, not both. So whichever one is most important, you can get to all of those records. We'll always give you this phone information. Of course, there's that number of employees. So if that were important and you wanted to do it by size range, you could certainly do it that way, or you could customize your own range. Maybe you want locations only and you want to see those businesses that employ at least 3 employees up to, let's say, 11. You can customize it if you would like. So know that you can do that with the number of employees, the number of employees and the sales volume. And by the way, I do like to point out on the sales volume, we learned a long time ago, you don't call a small business and ask them how much they're making and not have that phone call end quickly. So we actually have a team that's led by an economist, and she and her team put together an algorithm that supports and produces this sales volume. The same is true with business expenditures. If it is in fact a publicly traded company, then we'll capture that information from their 10Ks and make that available on each and every record. So know that with the sales volume, it is not something that we call verified. It is an algorithm. We'll always provide this financial information where we have that. Of course, we have some special selections. You know, maybe I am a website developer and I want to look at businesses that don't have web addresses. I could certainly make that my selection and get any of those businesses that may not have web addresses. So know that that's available. When it refers to professionals, all or one, this was something that we added specifically to the database because we were told that in some cases, patrons wanted to make a mailing list, and on their list were going to be doctors' offices, attorneys' offices, and they didn't need to necessarily reach out to every attorney or every doctor. They wanted the option of being able to select an all or a one. So you can certainly do that. And then, as I mentioned, with being able to omit certain pieces of information, you could certainly do that. So if you didn't want ATMs to show up in a search, you simply select those ATMs, search for that SIC code and description. There it is. Add that to your selected field, and whenever you produce your results, as long as you have this selected, those ATMs will never show up. So let me do a simple search. And I'll just do restaurants simply because there are always so many of them. And let's just do let's do your county. So I'll first grab Illinois. And I have a total, I'm going to update my count. I have a total of 4,700. There is something I didn't do. I didn't search for my restaurants. There was no way that we're going to have that many restaurants. Though I've added all of my restaurants. Now I have 215, which makes better sense. Is there another neighboring county that I could add? I'd like to get a few more records here if I could. Who would be a neighboring county?
Will County.
Will, W-I? Oh, wow. Okay, perfect. What cities are in Will County? Because that added a lot of restaurants.
Frankfurt.
Gotcha. So I'm going to view my results. Here are my 1,300. I've got all of these restaurants. There's a variety of things that I can do with this. Remember, I mentioned the charts feature. Now I can drop this on the charts, and what it will do is give me those top 7 cities in this case, because we're only looking at one SIC code. So now it will break down the top 7 cities across the area and give me that information. I also get a full report down here. And again, I could hyperlink to this group here in Naperville if I wanted to. So know that that is available. It can be printed off or it can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. And you have other options. You could overlay sales volumes, numbers of employees. So when you look at this from an employment standpoint, 5 to 9 is the largest group at 523 of those restaurants, followed by 20 to 49, then 10 to 19, and there's 1 to 4. So it gives you all of that information, and then it gives you a full report down here. So it just depends on what you need to be able to do. Now, I can also download this information. I did a program like this down in Orange County, which is Orlando, Florida, and this person wanted to be able to obviously contact these businesses, and they were going to send out a mailer. So to do so, it's as simple as putting a check mark in the box here. And I do want to see, so in your case, you can download 200 records at a time. The only limit is at a time. So that would be 8 pages. So you can use this toggle to advance to the next page, the following, etc. And once you've reached page 8, you would simply stop and select the download. So there I am on page 8. I can select my download. I could print this. As I've mentioned before, if you have your own personalized account, you could certainly save this search as well. And if you're going to take a lot of records out, what I would encourage you to do, because all of my Excel spreadsheets are in fact static, so you can't add to mine, but you could certainly open your own and do a copy paste. So if you're going to make mailing labels, you definitely want to leave it in comma delimited. And if you simply need the name of that restaurant, their address, phone, we will give you that owner or manager that's located there along with their name, the number of employees they have, the sales volumes, their primary SIC code. So we'll give you all of that information, and it's going to look just like this. That's interesting. For some reason, my Excel dropped over on my other screen. Let me pull this over so you can see this. So here's my Excel document. If I wanted to be able to add more records to one document and I was going to open up my own version of Excel, you simply come up into this corner and grab this information, copy it, and then drop it onto your own Excel and keep adding to it. At which point, once you've done that, you can minimize yours, close mine, and it brings you right back here. Then you simply use the word back to get back to that 8th page. Now you have to deselect these records or you'll produce the same ones over and over. Nothing more frustrating than that. So the easiest way to do that, instead of doing it page by page, just select Revise Search. It doesn't forget how you built your search, and then you can view your results. It leaves you on page 1, gets rid of all the check marks, and then you just simply type in this case, page 9, hit enter, and you're ready to go with more records. So there is no limit other than doing it 8 pages at a time. The other tool that I wanted to show you, and all of these tools that I'm showing you are available on most of the modules. If you don't see the charts, it's not that it's missing or broken. It's just not a feature that's available in that module. But you're going to have most of these available on all of your modules. Is this heat map. So this is a density map. I know that lenders love to get this kind of perspective when a business is perhaps seeking funding for a project or an initiative or starting a new business. So this gives you the density of all those locations across those 2 counties. Where it's red, there are a lot of them in those areas. Where it's more yellow, fewer, and green, even less. So you could be pulling up your competition. Despite what kind of business you're in, you could be pulling up your competition and get this same kind of map. The thing that I would mention is if it's fewer than 300 records, like it would have been if I would have gone with my first county selection, this is what you will see. When you drill in, and I'll kind of position this like this, when you drill in, it will eventually start to pinpoint all those locations, and it gives you this legend here on the far left-hand side. So if I wanted to know where, I can scroll through this legend certainly, and if I wanted to know where the IHOP restaurant was, I can click on that and it will take me to that location. I could even hyperlink just to this record if I wanted to. So know that all of this can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation or can be certainly printed off. Let me show you this as well, and I happen to notice this on page 2. So I'm going to go back to page 2, and I'll just use Arby's for example here. So we've got this corporate tree information. Whenever you see this kind of linkage, especially if you're attempting to perhaps make a sale or develop a business relationship, always best to know about their entire structure. The up arrow will take me to one record and one record only, and that would be the subsidiary. If there weren't a subsidiary, it would take me to the ultimate parent. This will show me their entire organizational chart. So I'll select that, and bingo. Arby's is actually, it's managed by Inspire Brands, but it's ultimately owned by this Rourke Capital Group out of Atlanta, Georgia. Notice they have some 37 subsidiaries and almost 24,000 branches. There is a legend that runs across the top here. So if you needed to know what this PV stood for, you can quickly identify that that's a private company. If you want to see these other subsidiaries or any of these other branches, it would be as simple as either scrolling down, or you can close this subsidiary, and then you've got all the other ones listed below it. So you could garner some great insights about a company's structure by using that corporate tree information. And you can also get to, and I'm just going to go back, you can also get to this information when you open up the record. So here's their record. There's my corporate tree information here. So know that that's always going to be available. We're always going to begin with the location information. We've got their website and some social links that they use. There are some of those job openings. So if you have patrons that are interested in using the database to find out about job opportunities, they could certainly look at companies by name if they would want to, or they could use the jobs module and look at position kinds of opportunities. And I'll show you that here in a second. I'll always have this industry profile. There's the primary SIC code that they're under. There's a business profile. We'll capture this. We won't necessarily have a business profile on every single business. You know, not every single business carries curly fries, right? So that's a priority. Got to know about that. But Bob's Garage down the street, we're not going to have a business profile on Bob's Garage. We do work with Google, so we have Google Maps embedded on every single record. Can print that off if you'd like. Here's the business demographics. So we just updated this record here in September, and when we contacted them, they told us they had 35 employees. One thing we don't do is ask how many are full-time versus part-time. We just want that total, because that total is going to go into that algorithm that in part supports this sales volume. So business demographics is always going to be listed in each record. We have that management directory. Now, if we were looking at the Rourke Capital Group, this would be a much deeper record. Company news, we're getting this through Bing, and it updates on the fly. So the last update was on 9/22 for this. What is today's date? So that was yesterday. And you can see it gets quite deep. You could go in and get to even additional articles if you would want to. Might glean some great information about a company that way. No stock data in this case because it's not publicly traded. There are those business expenditures, followed by some historical data, including some historical records. So this location is relatively new under the Arby's brand. We also capture UCC filings, although this one hasn't had any. We have nearby businesses because we have the latitude and longitude embedded in the background, so we know where everyone is at, and we have certainly a list of competitors, in this case, other restaurants. So every record is going to look just like this as it relates to the business records. Any questions about how I did this search or the information contained within?
I have a quick question. Does this, the reference site, does it take into consideration like the do not call list and anything like that?
Absolutely not. We give you the entire kitchen sink, and then you're responsible for having any kind of cleansing done on records so that you could potentially call them, because we do have consumer records as well. And it states that clearly on the consumer records, you must adhere to all state, county, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And we do that. I know that the do not call registry will do a certain number of area codes for free, and then they begin charging. So you can get that done lots of different places. let me show you one more tool, and then we're going to look at some of these other modules. This tool can be a great friend, especially if maybe you need to make a drive route. This could be a very good friend of yours. Maybe you want to search a little different way and not use perhaps one of these more traditional methods to do so. With this, you always need to, and I will show you, I'll do number of employees. And we'll say, only show me restaurants that have this group of employees. And I do want to show you this as well. Notice I'm searching all SIC codes. If I switch it to primary only, so this is my total number of restaurants across the country because I got rid of the county selection, right? So this is my entire US number of records for restaurants. If I change it to primary, watch what happens to this total. So now it drops it down. So it got rid of businesses that have restaurants in them, but that's not their primary line of business. Think about every bowling alley you've ever been in. They have a restaurant probably in them. So we got rid of them. Think about convenience stores that have a few tables set up. We got rid of all of them because their primary line of business is that of a convenience store. So know that you can actually alter that before you get into your records. I'm going to leave it as such, and I'm going to open up my map. I only deploy the map after I've made all of my selections from here in this particular example. Then it's as simple as deploying that map. And it always starts off with the view of the United States because until you've populated the zoom to field here, it doesn't know where you want to start out at. So what is a zip code there for example, for the library?
0901.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first number.
60901.
60901.
Right.
And go. And now I'm here at the zip centroid. I'm going to expand my view just a little bit. Okay. Now I have several ways that I could search for information. I can draw my own shape, use a true radius. I have some predetermined boundaries. I could even make a drive route. So with the draw a shape, we'll do that one first. You click on it, and then it's a single click to start it. So you can start wherever on the map it makes sense to you. I'll just go here, and then, you know, which direction do I want to go? At that point, maybe I'll go here, come down here, and go all the way out here. Then it's a double click, and it will identify how many of those records meet my criteria that are in that shape. If that's all I need, I can simply select done here and then view my results, and we already have them ready to go. So know you can use that. You could even alter this. If you didn't want to redraw the shape, but you thought, you know what, I shouldn't have gone maybe quite so far north. You can say, okay, I'll just get rid of, click to start it, I'll get rid of this area. And you double click, so there are 4 results in there. You click on the new, you double click on the new shape, and then you can exclude those from your output. I was working with a small business development center down in Tallahassee, Florida, and the gentleman called me up one day out of the blue, and he said, "Say, Bill, I know you showed me how I could omit stuff from a shape. Can you walk me through that again?" And so I did, and then at the conclusion, he had 2 areas that he needed to exclude. I said, "What did we just get rid of?" He said, 2 cemeteries. My customer is really superstitious and didn't want them included. I did reiterate that there was nobody going to be answering the phone there, but he wanted to make a happy customer, so he did. So you can use that tool a lot. You can certainly use a true radius. You could put in your business address in this Zoom 2 with the city and state, and then you could do a true radius around your address. And it will go out a maximum of 150 miles. And as you can see, I clicked where I wanted to start, then I began to drag away, but I didn't let go of my mouse. And then you just drag it out whatever direction you want to go, and it will calculate how far out you've gone. Once you've reached your maximum, you simply let go and it will tabulate what we have available. So that's certainly true for you.
Bill, I had
yes.
a quick question about geography searching. Is it possible to import any manner of shapefiles or GIS data?
Great question. And do you work with by chance Esri? An Esri
sure.
product? Yeah, so our data is in Esri. You can't import anything into our product. We do have a sister product to this that we don't make available in public libraries. If you wanted to learn more about that, you could certainly reach out to me and I'll get you in touch with the person that would be able to provide you some additional insights.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you bet. I also have the ability to use some of these predetermined boundaries. So let's overlay the area's zip codes, for example. So it will populate all those zip codes, and then it's simply a matter of clicking in the zip code that you're most interested in, or maybe there are multiple. Maybe you want to look at this one and you want to skip one and you want to go down here. Just depends on what you want to be able to do. So know that that tool is available, and this is anywhere in the United States. So if you're selling to folks on the East Coast, you could go into that area and do all of these things that I'm talking about. So all of that is available, and I'll just delete these guys and return to my tools. I do want to show you this drive route. I helped a gentleman in Wisconsin who he was looking for manufacturers of skid pallets, and he was going to go from one community in Wisconsin to another one, and they were about roughly 125 miles apart. So we put in the SIC codes that he needed, and then we opened up the map and went right to the drive route. And in his case, we just needed to put in, you could put in a street address, maybe even a street corner, and then your ending address, and then your buffer distance. So in his case, we just put in the city names, and I'll just do Omaha, Nebraska, and I'll end down in Lincoln, Nebraska. And then my buffer distance, as it notes here, it will go out 50 miles. Now, this gentleman knew that those types of manufacturers would be within 2 to 3 miles of the interstate because they want easy access to the on off ramps. So we did his at 3. I'll just do this at 0.5. So basically a half a mile each way. So a mile total, and then I'll create my buffer distance. It calculates that route and then gives me how many records there are along that route. In his case, there were 18 results. Here I've got 192. What we did for him is we went done. We went to view our results. And then we put those 18 back on the heat map. So when you do that, it always starts off at this view and you have to drill in. So give it some time to calculate in between clicks, like I'm doing here, and then eventually, and you might have to frame your area a couple of times, but you will see that eventually it gets me close enough that I can start to break out all those locations. And I'm only 50 miles apart, Omaha to Lincoln, so it's a little clustered in my example. in his, it was pretty clear cut because there were 18 of them and they weren't right next to each other. So he was going to have his laptop open in his computer, and he was going to go from one location to the next. So it just depends on what you need to be able to do. There's lots of different ways to do it. Again, it can be printed or it can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. Any questions regarding my business data? And it does note here that of these 192, there are 14 of them with email addresses, and then it says more information. We do sell that information. We don't make it available in the database. You can only imagine that if we had all of these email addresses available to anybody in the United States by simply going through their library, how quickly those email addresses would go south. So you can always contact us at this email address, and that the person that would be able to assist you would get you that insight in terms of cost. And I can tell you, the 14 that it shows here, those are owned by Data Axle. We own another company that have far many more email addresses. We can't put their totals in with ours. That's why it looks so few based on this. On average, our coverage is 60 to 65% in any industry. Some are a little greater than others. Obviously, restaurants would be one of the greater ones. Any questions before I leave this module? Okay. To get back to our homepage, just click on Reference Solutions, brings you right back here. And then it's as simple as opening the next module. Let me show you the U.S. new business information, because again, it's not nearly as complete as what you see in the U.S. business database. So again, you could search for a company name or just do a city and state look. It always defaults to the last 6 months. In advanced search, this is where it allows you to do a lot more filtering, if you will. So if you're looking for certain types of businesses, you could certainly do a keyword search and find only certain types. You could use that major industry group as well. Let's take a look at it from the standpoint of your community. So we'll do date range and we'll do your county again. So I'll select the state. And the county, and I'll change this default. Notice it's up to last week, and it does say the last 2 years. This is changing. It's only going to be through the last year. So let's do the last 3 months. Oh, heck, the last 3 months, square in the middle of the pandemic. How many new businesses have been filed for? 27 in your county. So I can view those results. It's going to be on 2 pages because there are 25 records per page. And here are those newer businesses. Let's look here. So here's that location information. And in this case, we did get a phone number. Oftentimes, we don't even have that. In terms of their location type, it's going to be a new business doing business as a commercial location, and they indicated in that information that they had 2 employees. So every single new business record is going to be set up just like this. And it takes us roughly 90 days to take a business from the new status to a verified business, if in fact we're going to include them. I have a niece that lives in Chicago on the North Shore, and she has a great client list. She has a total of 6 employees, but she's not listed in the database. They do everything from planning weddings and parties, to house sitting or dog walking, taking kids to doctor's appointments, picking up groceries, whatever it is that a family might need. But she's not listed in the database. She could, you know, fall madly in love, move to the Bahamas, not decommission her website, and no one would be the wiser. So we want businesses that are going to have something a bit more tangible to them. That's why she's not listed in the database. Any questions on the new business feature? If not, let me show you consumer lifestyles. So if your business requires that you work with consumers, this could be a great tool for you. So could certainly the standard white pages. This is in essence what you would see when you open up the phone book, except for we do include the information through the Census Bureau as it relates to neighborhood, home income, and home value information. And that's contained in both of these. Let me launch the consumer lifestyles. So when I first moved back into Omaha, now some 13 years ago, I wasn't in the database. I was living in a townhome, paying rent to my buddy that owned it. I was paying him one amount for everything. Other than my bank knowing where I was at, I didn't get magazines. I didn't have internet access, so I wasn't online buying stuff. There really wasn't, I didn't have much of a footprint at that point in time. My dog became sick. I took him to the vet, found out that he was allergic to the dog food formula that I was feeding him. Something had changed with it, and the vet said, instead of trying to figure out what he's allergic to, just feed him an all meat and all chicken or an all fish product. And then he asked me, he said, do you have a Petco or a Petco or PetSmart near you? And I did, I had a Petco. So he gave me some brands that I might try, and I found one that he liked, and I became a shopper of Petco. In fact, ended up signing up for a PALS membership. So I gave them my name, address, and email address, not my home phone number. I showed up in the database as a dog lover. So this is exactly what that information would look like. And we have, if you notice here, under lifestyles, we have all these various categories that we're capturing information on. I was captured here as a dog lover, but now we have lots of nonprofits that like to use our database because they're looking at charitable donors. So they love this one, right? I even have some of my old libraries that I used to work with. I have one in Athens, Georgia. It's the Clark County library system, and two of their neighboring counties are part of that system. One of them is Oglethorpe. It's very rural, very poor little county. They use the database under charitable donors because they had they needed to raise $5,000 for new library signage. And they did a listing, they did a mailing to all the charitable donors across their community, and they ended up, between that and the Friends of the Library, raising $8,000 for their initiative. So they were excited about being able to do that. And this is exactly how you do it. You either select a specific one like charitable donor, and then you simply open up your map options. Let's do the county again. And I often change it from all to one. I want that primary at that address. And oftentimes, you will see the primary listed is oftentimes the female, simply because they do so much of the shopping for the household. I'm going to update my count. So I have 7,459 charitable donors across the county. Now you could do this. Let's imagine that there were an AKC dog event coming up and you wanted to look at those people who were charitable donors, but also dog lovers. You can come under Show More Options here and select this. And instead of looking at any selected, look at all that were selected. So what does that do to my count? So now I've got 2,133 people that are into both dogs and are charitable donors. And here's exactly what their record's going to look like. And notice, Anthony, there is that information about the do not call registry. So you could certainly take this list and send it to the registry, and then they would do the hygiene on it. And like I said, they do a certain number of area codes for free. So here are those records. Again, I've got 25 records per page. Let's just open up this first record. So there's that address information. Now we're not call verifying this. We're seeing this against the different activity that's coming out of this address. Everything that we've seen is he's a male, married, been in this home for about 5 years. There's that estimated household income and value along with the information on the neighborhood from the Census Bureau. And then there are all the lifestyle characteristics. The only thing that we asked about was show me charitable donors, and they need to be a dog lover. Now, if I did another search for, say, gardening, this person may not show up in the record because we do have, and it notes it right here, we do have a scoring system of 0 through 9, but we will only show you records of people who score at least a 6 or higher. So if I came back and did a search for gardening, this one may not, that record may not show up because they don't score high enough in gardening. Does that make sense? Any questions on those records or how I did that search? Angela, I didn't know if you had a question for me and you were on mute or if you were speaking with someone else. Okay. Let me show you. I'm going to select my home key. Let's open up the jobs and internships. This is so easy to use. You simply launch it. It brings you again to a quick search page. You could certainly do a title type of search, a keyword search, or look at a specific company in any given city or state. Let's do this. One of the things that I saw on the news was information about manufacturing. So let's go into manufacturing and we'll just select manufacturing production. And we'll put in your city here. And there we go. I'm going to view my results. And it just made an error, and I'm not certain what just happened. Notice I am no longer in Illinois. I've jumped into Texas. I hate it when I automatically go to Texas. I don't want to go to Texas. I'm going to need to submit a report that this is broken because it should have only taken me to your community. In fact, I saw some records being deployed and then all of a sudden it switched to this. I wonder, I'm going to try a new search. Let me do another type of title. I'll go with nurse. That's one that we have seen a lot of activity with. And I'm crossing my fingers. Nope, it's still deferring. There's something going on. My apologies. It should have only given us records, obviously, for your area. And by the way, if anyone is ever doing a search and they get this number and they're in the right area and they get this number, that is the maximum number of results that we will deploy in any one search. So I apologize for that not working. I'm going to need to submit a case to have that looked at. Let me do this. Let me deploy the historical. Oh, gosh darn it. Do we have time for a little bit more? I see it's the bewitching hour. I can go either way.
I think it might be time to wrap up.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't know.
You
if
bet.
Okay.
Let me just add that with the historical information, you can put in, maybe somebody's considering site selection, you could put in the address of that location that you're considering, and you could look at the neighborhood around it, those businesses around that site, to see if they've been stable over time or if there have been a lot of businesses coming and going. So that's one great use for that particular module. And I'm done. Any questions? Any final questions? Okay. Thank you everyone for your time. I would like to give you my email address, and if you would have any questions, you could certainly reach out to me and I'd be happy to assist you. It is bill.carlson, C-A-R-L-S-O-N, at the word data with a dash axle.com. So bill.carlson at data-axle.com. And I would be happy to assist anyone.
Is that AXEL, Bill?
Yes, A-X-L-E.
AXLE.com. Okay.
Yes.
I'll send that out in the chat. Sometimes it's easier to copy and paste.
Perfect. Excellent. If you all would like to do something similar to this for any kind of patrons through the library, I would be happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your help on this.
You bet. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, like he said, you can reach out to him at his email or email the chamber at info@KankakeeCountyChamber.com. We'll put you in touch with either the library or the Economic Alliance or Bill. So
Perfect.
thank you all for joining this morning and have a great Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you.